So this is this month's community class, How to Create a Community Away from Social Media. I actually taught this as a community class last fall. It might have actually been one of my first ones when I re-engaged the community class idea. But back then we weren't recording them, or I wasn't recording them. So I thought I would reteach it, hopefully get it out to more folks. And I know this is such a common thing, this desire to build our business off of social media. And it's something that I know I have personally done. I also don't know many coaches who genuinely enjoy being there as a form of marketing or client creation. And so I'm hoping this evening or this afternoon to give you all some insight into other ways we can forge and create community, because we do need community. Now, I want to clarify terminology real quick. I have an online community called the Braver Coaches Collective. It used to be called the Practice Community. So when I'm referring to community, I'm not talking about a particular thing or place. We're going to give it some more definition. So we're going to chunk up and look at community as a more of an energetic thing. What is it we're gathering with people around? So that's our goal for this afternoon. So in today's community class, learn why we need to build a tight-knit and supportive community of clients and like-hearted individuals outside of those social media platforms. Explore tools for cultivating meaningful interactions within your community, both online and offline. Understand the complementary role that social media can play if you decide to still engage with it, or you want to show up there, have some visibility there. But maybe we can take the pressure of social media having to be a client creation tool off the table. And so that's the goal here today. I'm not going to steer you away from it or tell you not to use it. Can we just put it in a different container? And so we can maintain that heart-centered approach that resonates with how you want to grow your coaching practice, whether you're on there or not. And then as always, there's plenty of space here for Q&A. You can use the chat box. I do track it as we go along, or you can unmute yourself when there's an appropriate time and ask me a question if it's helpful. All right, so first let's kick things off with why we need a community. Why do we need to build a tight-knit and supportive community? What is a tight-knit and supportive community? How would you even recognize one? How would you go about creating one? How would you go about identifying one? Let's start with some of the basics. So first and foremost, let's define terms. What is a community? How am I referring to it in this context? Number one, it's a group of individuals who share a common interest, goal, or purpose related to your coaching. So it's something or someone or a group of someones that are already within your realm, within your sphere of influence. We're going to talk about that today, that have common interests, but they may not know it. So we're going to also talk about how do we bring those people together, because connecting people is one of the tools that we can use also as what might look like a marketing tool. A community is a defined group that seeks your work out to receive guidance or support and personal or professional development within and outside a coaching relationship. So you already have community, personal community, maybe professional community. This is an opportunity to think about who's your community as a business or as a coaching practice, however you define that for yourself. And a group that is within your sphere of influence. So this is already a group of people that you know, or that you know someone who knows. We're not trying to reach to the outer ends of the earth to try and find these people. And I think my next slide actually looks at the spheres of influence and why we need to bring these into consideration for all of our marketing efforts. So go ahead and draw this on your paper. I'm going to give you some more definition in a moment, but if it were me, I'd want to have them written down and I could fill in the gaps as we go. So we have our inner sphere, our middle sphere, and our outer sphere. And again, I'm going to give you some definition, but just get these on your paper. Leave a little bit of space to write around it. Okay, and this is what I refer to as the 3 spheres of influence. And I think of them as concentric, right? They kind of build on one another. I'm going to come back to that slide. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Let me find. My apologies. I thought I had a slide here. I don't, so I'm going to break it down for you. I thought I had a slide that described what each sphere does. That's kind of important. I think I accidentally deleted it. So let me give you some definition, and I'll go slow so you can write this down since it's not up on your screen. Let's start with our inner sphere. So your inner sphere are people who already know you, who are already within your world somehow. They are connected to you. I think of these people as, I would know you're in my inner sphere if I have your email address and my popping into your inbox is not going to be flagged as spam. Kind of a silly way to look at it, but that's how I might mark it. If I can email you and you know who I am, you're in my inner sphere. So you know me. I don't know if you like me, but you know me. You have context for me. We have some kind of relationship to one another already. And your inner sphere is far bigger than you can possibly imagine. If you were to sit down and really comb through all of your contacts and the people in your social media feeds that you are actually connected to, and maybe your LinkedIn connections, maybe you have an old-fashioned Rolodex or a stack of business cards of people you've met over the years. You go through your contacts, you're probably going to find somewhere between 50 and 150 people in your sphere of influence. And if you've been in business for a while, anyone you've conducted business with that you have a little bit of a relationship with, so not, you didn't sell them a course or a class or a little one-off, but you actually had a working relationship with that person, they're in your inner sphere as well. That's quite big. Then we have our middle sphere, and our middle sphere are the people who know someone in our inner sphere. So they're maybe 1, 2 at most degrees of separation from us. I'm starting to see middle sphere influence in my community. There's a lot of cross-pollination happening where now people who know me are getting connected to one another. And now suddenly those middle sphere people become their own inner sphere people. This is how community builds on itself. So again, middle sphere are people who are 1 to 2 degrees of separation away. They're the people that when someone that is in your inner sphere refers, the probability of them stepping closer metaphorically is pretty high, right? They trust the people that they know. They're seeking their guidance or their insight for whatever support they're looking for. And if you're in that person's inner sphere, your name's likely to come up. And then we have our outer sphere. Our outer sphere are people who don't know us, who've never met us, who are more than 3 degrees of separation away from us. These are people who most of our marketing goes out to. Social media marketing in particular. We are casting a wide net in hopes that we capture enough attention of enough of the right people to bring them closer in for the potentiality of working with us. And something I've said for years to my students, especially in the mentorship, if you are selling coaching, coaching is an inner sphere product. You need to make a note of that, make a note of that. Coaching is an inner sphere product. I would say any one-to-one or small group service is an inner sphere service. And when we market it to an outer sphere audience, the distance that person has to travel to make it all the way into your inner circle is pretty far. In other words, the amount of effort and energy you have to put in to get someone in the outer sphere to trust you enough to hire you for some pretty high stakes stuff. I would imagine any of your coaching services are what I would consider high stakes, high investment, high time investment, high energy investment, and high trust and rapport investment. They have to know you or know someone who highly trusts you. And so when it comes to my personal ethos on marketing, I just put a big old X for the outer sphere. I don't even bother. If someone in the outer sphere happens to trickle their way in because maybe an article they read, or maybe they came across a post from 5 years ago on social media, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I'm not going out and efforting to attempt to get their attention. So I just cross them out. I don't pay any attention to it. I don't need to. I keep my focus on the inner sphere and the middle sphere. Inner sphere is my community. Middle sphere may one day be my community. And I just keep my focus in those 2 rings. So I'm going to pause here. This is a good spot for questions. I'm also going to get a sip of water if anyone has one. And again, you can pop it in the chat box. And we do have a small number of you live tonight. So don't be shy, because any question you have, anyone who's watching the replay might also have it and they didn't get to be here. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you want to be so brave.
Hey, Andrea, it's Shantae. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi.
Okay, great. Hi. Um, do you also, well, it's a bad question for you, but for some of your clients, do you also recommend staying away from the outer sphere when you're doing more one-to-many? So like more workshop type events, or is this strictly more geared towards the one-to-one coaching?
I stay away from it altogether, whether it's for courses or workshops or classes. But I want to put an asterisk on that because I'm not reliant on one-to-many as a income producer for me. I don't really put any energy there because I don't need it. That's not what I built my business on. If you intend to build the what I would call your bread and butter, the thing that's going to pay you 80% of your income on a consistent basis from one-to-many, you're going to probably need to be better versed in outer sphere marketing, because there's only so many low end offers we can sell. Like we're going to have to sell a significant number in order to produce the same income that maybe a handful of one-to-one clients might produce. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And then I couple that with thinking about how you design, like program design, and how you chunk down instead of chunk up, which that all makes sense now. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Good question. Yeah, I make the assumption that the majority of the people in my work who are coaches are looking to produce $8,000 to $10,000 a month from predominantly one-to-one or one-to-few services. And then maybe they have complementary or supplementary one-to-many on the side. So that's my working assumption. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now we can ask. First, we have to ask, do you have a community? And this is not a trick question. You either, yes, you have one, you're already engaging with them, you can think of who they are, their faces pop up, you're pretty clear on it, or the way that we're defining it, a group that has common interests that you have cultivated or brought together in some meaningful way. Maybe we don't have that yet. So if the answer is yes, would your community describe themselves as part of something within your work? I know that my community members, whether they're in the collective or on my email list or they've come to a retreat, if someone asks them, do you consider yourself part of Andrea's sphere or part of her work? I think most of them would say yes. So do they regularly have the opportunity to spend time in this community? And again, it can be digital, virtual, in real time, in person, in the room with you. Are they actively encouraged and invited to engage in gatherings and events organized by you? One of the reasons I brought the community classes back was so that more of my members in my community, both in the collective, but also people who are on the email list or who have come to a myriad of events or who have been clients in the past, have an opportunity to come together with people like them. So if you don't have a community already, do you currently have a marketing network outside your sphere of influence you're attempting to reach on a regular basis? In other words, do you predominantly have a social media account? Do you find yourself primarily reaching out to this network exclusively when you have a paid offering available? This is the trapping, I think, of outer sphere marketing, is the constant need to produce something valuable that is worth people paying for. It just requires more of us. I don't think it needs to. And you also might not have a community, but you might not be on Instagram. You might not be on TikTok. You might not be emailing a list of people, and you might not be reaching out to anyone, even if you have something to offer. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle, right? No, I'm not doing any of that, but I'm also not actively cultivating a community either. I'm sort of in the gray zone. That's an option as well. So just take note of where you're at. It'll help inform next steps or ways that you want to start bringing a community into reality for yourself. A simple question, is community building essential to your coaching business? Hint, the answer is yes. Yes, it is essential. And again, I'm going to go back to the definition really quickly. It's a group of individuals who share a common interest. So it doesn't mean that this community already is some group that hangs out together somewhere. They may not even yet completely know that they're part of your community, but do you see them as part of your community? And is building that essential to your business? I think that it is. I think that it is. You know, coaching is a relational service. It's a relational business. You're in the business of relationship building. You might think you're in the business of coaching, and you are. It's an incredible tool, and your clients will benefit greatly from it, but it isn't what sells coaching, oddly enough. So building community creates an opportunity for people to be part of something long before they probably ever consider hiring you. So a few things that I think community gives those who are circling your work. They may be middle sphere, inner sphere. They've been in the inner sphere, but they've trickled away. Maybe they're current clients. Maybe they're people that you want to be clients, or people that you know who have people they know who want to work with you. The first thing community does is give us a sense of belonging. I know when some of my community members come to a community class or attend a retreat or a workshop, they get to be in spaces with like-hearted individuals. And I know that makes us feel less alone. It makes us feel more connected. It makes us feel like we're on the journey with someone else. For so many of us, at least in this field, we're doing a lot of this work on our own. And so creating community gives us a touch point, a place where we don't have to be all by ourselves. So whatever it is that your coaching points toward, whatever it is that you work with, the problems you solve, the goals that you help people achieve, whatever the aspiration that drives your coaching, is there an opportunity for people to belong around that thing? And as it says here, being part of a close-knit community provides individuals with a place where they feel accepted and valued, and where they get to be part of something larger than themselves. I know I like to have a touch point. I like to have a place I can check in with. Number two, I think it provides collaboration and resource sharing. You know, someone was just sharing with me before we started recording that they got to connect with someone in our collective and got to experience some of their services. And it was a really incredible experience. That's resource sharing. Cross-pollination. We're more likely to be in support of those that we know. We're relational creatures. This is what we do. So when tight-knit communities encourage collaboration and resource sharing, it makes it easier for individuals to access information and skills and support they may not have on their own. So part of having community is also to decentralize you as the only or the primary source of support for the people that you serve. One of my, I think maybe gifts or skills is I love to connect people. I feel oddly good at this, and I get so much joy out of it. When someone in my world has a need and I get to connect them with someone else in my world who has a solution, I get a lot of joy out of bringing those two people together. So I facilitate a lot of collaboration inside of my community, which has had this interesting side effect of people create friend groups, and I've had people form businesses out of this. I've had people collaborate out of this. I've had people forge incredible relationships out of this that have gone on to stand the test of time. And so now we're connected not just to me, but to one another. And I think that's really critical. It creates an ecosystem. I love this one. Creating community creates an ecosystem. Clients who have a positive experience within the community, however you're going to bring that community together, are more likely to refer others to the coaching services, contributing to the growth of your business. I can tell you now that 100% of my business comes from the collective and referrals. And it's been like that for a number of years. I have not done external marketing Outside of my email list, I don't think since year 2, maybe 3, and I've never paid for marketing. So 100% of my business is regenerated from the ecosystem of the community who's already in my world. And it starts to compound. In the beginning, I probably had 5 people in my inner sphere. And I know I said you probably have 150, but if I, in the very, very beginning, the people that I could name, that I could, ask for a referral or who I thought would want to be a part of something was a handful. And so it grows. And because it grows slowly and people come to trust how it grows and trust that there's consistency and that you're going to be there, it's far more reliable than that flash in the pan marketing that has to constantly churn over, which social media is really great at. It's never the same, which makes it a gamble, which is fun for cat videos. I don't know that it's good for helping services necessarily. And it creates long-term relationships. This is the most important one. Communities create long-term relationships. A coaching community can foster long-term relationships with clients, both current clients, future clients, and past clients. It goes all directions, even after, and I would say long after the formal engagement has ended. And this will lead to repeat business referrals and I think loyalty. My clients truly don't feel the need to look outside the spaces I've created until they truly feel done. And at that point, we graduate. It's mutual. The graduation is mutual. My average client works with me for 3 years. No matter what program they're in my world paying me for 3 years. And then beyond that, I just learned that 90% of my email list has been subscribed for more than a year. And I know that most of them have been on there for plus 5 years. So even my digital community has a long-term connection to me. Here's the beauty of this. I don't have to go far to cultivate new business. I just have to reach out to a handful of people and make gentle, compelling invitations with enough value packed behind it that it warrants me making that invitation and a fair amount of generosity to ensure that it goes a long way. So for example, if I only need 40 client relationships a year between mentorship and private coaching, 40 agreements a year, I don't need to market to thousands of people. I probably only need to have conversations with 50 to 80 people, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. And that might come from a very small pool in my community of 200 to 300 people. It just brings everything closer in. All right, so some tools for cultivating meaningful interactions within your community, both online and offline. So how do we do this? How do we bring people together? How do we help people feel like they're part of something? How do we ensure consistency and engagement? And how do we stay present with it? Because we don't also want to produce something that we're constantly having to pour tons of energy into. You're going to have to put some energy in. But I'm hoping we can dial back the amount that you might be drained by something like social media and dial up maybe higher quality engagement, but further or spaced farther apart. So this is critical for me, that the impact you make won't be measured by the number of people you reach, but by the number of people you serve, and they're not the same thing. I'll pause in case you want to write that down. Good opportunity for me to get some water. So your impact won't be measured by the number of people you reach, but by the number of people you serve, and they're not the same thing. Social media is reach. You may come across someone's feed, you may have gotten to them, but you likely didn't make a lick of a difference for them. Service requires a relationship, two-way street. So the majority of my marketing, if not all of it, is service-based, not reach-based. If my marketing doesn't actively support or serve you in a measurable way, it probably wasn't very good marketing to me. So everything I'm about to share with you is about service. Because community building is just one additional way we get to serve. It's just one more way we get to serve. It's one more way I get to be of service. I feel like all of my efforts that come out of my business, whether I'm working with a client, working on a program, serving a marketing tool, producing some content, building up the network, the collective, to me, all of it is coaching. All of it is coaching. And that makes my brain happy, makes my body happy. It's just more seamless. Okay, so here are some spaces that I've curated over the years. These are real-time examples. Not all of these exist at this moment. I want to be clear. I'll point out the ones that have been going on the longest. So these are some of the places that I would say my community gets to hang out, gets to reside, whether they hang out there kind of privately, but they feel like they're part of something, or they hang out there very actively and they're engaged with something. So in the Braver Coaches Collective, formerly the Practice Community, I think all of you are in the collective at this stage who are live tonight. And the community has grown, the collective has grown organically, 100% organically. I've never marketed it. I didn't need to. That wasn't its purpose. Its purpose was to truly just be a resource for people. It is hosted on Mighty Networks. And it's kind of my one-stop hub for content and resources and engaging posts and questions and community sharing and asking people to engage and talk about their experiences and what they need and make their needs known. It's really a wonderful resource, I think, for me, and I've enjoyed cultivating it over the years. At one point, we had over 800 members, and about a year ago, maybe not quite, about 6 months ago, I made a pretty big decision to cull that back to 250. So I took anyone kindly out of the community who hadn't engaged in over a year. Because, and then let's go back a slide. Where did it go? My impact will not be made by how many people I reach. 800 people sounds great. Sounds great. Doesn't mean anything if only 200 engage. You know what sounds better? 250 people, of which 200 log on regularly. That's more interesting to me. That's a more fruitful, dynamic environment. So I just want to point that out because even my spaces are pretty boutique. They're pretty small. Brave Makers Monthly, that's my newsletter. It's in construction right now. I took a pause in February for the first time in I think 8 years. And we're gonna relaunch it next week with essay format, going back to something that I used to do a number of years ago, but it was Brave Makers for a long, long time, about 4 years. And in full transparency, I have about 1,200 subscribers. It's not nothing, but it's not huge, y'all. Like I know people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers who are getting 30,000 subscribers a month. That's just not me. It's never been me. I was really inspired over the summer by Danny Gardner's work. She's a marketing and business coach out of the UK. I think they're currently living, her and her husband are living in Spain, I want to say, living a looks like very luxurious life. And she talks a lot in her work about purposefully cultivated spaces, digital or not. And it really resonated with me. It resonated with my nervous system. It resonated with how my business has actually functioned. And it seems to resonate with a lot of people in her community as well as mine. And so Brave Makers Monthly, again, about 1,200 subscribers. I have about a 50 to 60% open rate, which is pretty high, but I only send once a month, highly curated, hopefully highly curated and purposeful. Brave Labs and community classes. So Brave Labs are actually no longer public, but they were a paid monthly class you could sign up for. And then the community classes, which are what you all are in right now, which are free. And you can donate. There's always the donation option, but they are my gift. They are my give back. They're something that I really enjoy doing. And I've done for a number of years. I think we're going on 9 years of teaching a monthly class as a gift to my community. Pay what you can workshops. So workshops and events that people have an opportunity to register at a sliding scale. Dinner parties and luncheons. I have a client who's about to do a brunch, an invitation monthly brunch to her community for a small group of 5 to 7 people who are literally in her physical community within where she lives. In-person groups and gatherings. I host a gathering in the winter from the solstice, December solstice, until the spring equinox. I call it my coven. It's not really a coven, there's only 6 of us. But we get together once a month, December, Jan, Feb, March, and we have tea and we talk about what does it mean to be a woman and what does it mean to be in service and how do we feel about life and aging and parenting, you know, the topics are endless. And it's just community. And everyone in that group was a client at some stage that's graduated into a different kind of relationship. And the group is my gift to them. But that's just one example. And I sent out an email and I invited those 5 women and they all said yes, and we're on year 2. It was a very easy lift and fun. And then meetup groups. I don't do them anymore. COVID put a kibosh on that, but we had meetup groups a few years ago, literally on meetup.com in the city of Portland. I had 15 to 16 people come every month. It was a really fun way to engage and be in person, and it cultivated clients as well. So these are just a handful of the spaces, and you can see that this is where you don't have to claim a social media space as a community because it's not. My email list is on here, but I've also, and I think we can all do this, I've tended to it as a community. I think of it as a valuable group of individuals in my world. And again, these are just a few ideas. You really could come up with just about anything. Ultimately, how do you bring people who are like-hearted and like-minded together that happen to be in search of the very thing that you promote as a coach? In fact, a fun assignment might be to come up with 3 to 5 ideas. You don't have to implement any but one. But what are 3 to 5 ways that you could bring people together in the next season? You know, spring is just around the corner. So between March and June, what are a few ways you can begin to cultivate your community and signal to them that you think of them as a community? So a few reminders. Let's remember that creating and nurturing a community within your business or coaching practice is not just a business strategy. It will do strategic things for your business. And we have to ensure that that connection is there if we're going to ask people to take additional steps. But truly, this is an act of generosity. I have been critiqued, I have been ridiculed, I've been questioned, I've been challenged many a times over the last 10 years for how much I give away. And I would do it all over again. I would give just as much away because it comes back tenfold and in ways that you can't even imagine. Plus, it just feels good. It feels good to give.
Andrea, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So based on this, then when you're starting out or toward, like myself, toward the beginning of starting out, I love all of these things. I do these things naturally. And when do you have in your mind when it's kind of time to transition and make an offer, or is that, do you have a set idea or not necessarily? I guess
Yeah,
that's my
I absolutely do. And I know we're not going to get
Okay.
into that tonight, but I can give you a
Okay.
little insight if that's helpful. So there are there's 2 tracks of marketing that I encourage. One is what we're talking about here is nurture marketing, the kind of marketing that supports building and nurturing relationships through the lens of, what we might call community. And it's things like this, it's activating support through generosity. Maybe it's free or low barrier to entry, very accessible, consistent. Once we turn it on, we can't really turn it off. And that's what I would call nurture marketing. And it's just running in the backdrop. That's why, let's not do all of these things. Let's maybe do 2 of them and do them really well. Then the second track of marketing in my work is called generative marketing, the kind of marketing that purposely generates clients. It's a direct marketing to client invitation. In
Okay.
fact, you're in Coaching Catalyst. That's generative marketing. It's for
Right.
those who are listening to this who don't know, it's a 4-week foundations level introduction to building your coaching business that is lifted right out of the basics of my mentorship. And one of the back end invitations is to join mentorship if it's the right fit in the right timing. And I'm not marketing mentorship to anyone right now, except anyone who is in Coaching Catalyst who's raised their hand because they're interested. Does that help?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So just real quick for anyone listening or anyone on the call, generative marketing, I would not do more than 1 generative marketing tool per quarter, 1 per 90 days at most. 1 per 6 months is better. Nurture marketing never turns off. But nurture marketing does not inherently create clients. It cultivates the space where clients will eventually be created from, but the marketing itself is not client creating. Everything on this list is not activated to create clients, it's activated to create relationships and to nurture relationships that one day will create clients. I hope I didn't
Thank you.
confuse you. Yeah.
No,
Thank
that's
you for
helpful. Thank
asking.
you.
I think it's an important question. Yeah. Okay. So back to my little reminders. Creating community is about providing those you genuinely aim to serve with greater access to your expertise and resources in a way that is convenient for you, but highly valuable for them. Something that I like to reiterate is that coaching does not yet have enough of a collective understanding of what it is to warrant people seeking it out without much intervention. Meaning, unless you are a coach or know a coach or have had a coach, you don't know what it is and you don't know what it does. And so providing resources and access to your work is an important educational tool in helping to shape why people should access coaching over, say, any other healing or supportive modality. And that to me is, marketing is an educational tool. More than advertising, it's an educational tool. Let's remember that while building a community doesn't have to be entirely free, it's important to foster a sense of togetherness and support rather than treating your community as a sales channel. If I mind every person who comes into my collective or subscribe to my email to be a client, I would not have good standing or good faith with my community. The fact that I don't, but that when I do, I hope it feels very purposeful, it just establishes what you can expect when you're hanging out in my spaces. I don't need to sell to you all the time, but when I do, it's going to be very purposeful, intentional, short-lived. It's going to do what it needs to do, and then we're going to move on. Let's also remember that a well-crafted community can be a dynamic space where you can share insights, offer guidance, even facilitate live discussions. It's a space where the focus is on collaboration and learning and mutual support rather than simply pushing products or services, or as I said earlier, putting the predominant focus on you as the coach, as the sole provider of everything that they're looking for. We want people to buy into the process, not into the person. And if they feel that that person can help them facilitate that process, that's a win-win. So however you decide to go about this, let's hope, and let's not hope, let's bake into it genuinely good support. All right, our last little bit of content here. Let's look at the role social media can play if you decide you want to keep it integrated into your work. And how do we do that while maintaining that heart-centered approach that I think so many of us are hoping to keep online when we get into our marketing spaces. And a great question here, can you do both at once or start with nurture and then do generative? Yeah, so like I said, nurture marketing never turns off. It's happening simultaneously. Generative marketing turns on and then turns off. So if I'm in a generative marketing phase in my business, you're going to see a lot of nurture content that supports that generative marketing. So they're going to complement one another, but the nurture piece doesn't turn off. And then when the generative marketing tool has done its job, it kind of goes away. And then we get back on track with different nurture support. So in January, when I was marketing Coaching Catalyst, which is a generative marketing tool to support people who are interested in my work to step a little closer and get real insider information to help them make a decision if I'm the right mentor for them. And if nothing else, they're going to get a boatload of good support in the meantime. The community or the collective at that time was full of content that supported Coaching Catalyst so that I could talk about it and share it and invite people into it. And then when Coaching Catalyst was filled and off and running, kind of in its own little world, we went back to different nurture marketing. So they cross-pollinate. Said that a lot tonight. It's my word du jour today, I guess. I hope that helps. All right, last little bit here. So a quick note about media. I think you all know this. I personally halted the use of social media, all platforms such as Instagram and Facebook in December of 2020. That was my personal decision. I did unpack it in a pretty detailed article for Life Coach magazine that was published last year. It is in the collective if you want to read it. So the following are just reflections and insights informed solely by my own experiences and are not a comprehensive commentary on this because this is a vast subject and you got to do what works best for you and you got to do what you enjoy. I didn't enjoy it, but that's just me. So some common myths I think we place or that we must disrupt, that we place and we must disrupt with service-based social media. Here are the myths, and here's where you might be bumping in if you're having some struggle there or feeling like this is really challenging. I'm marketing my butt off and nothing is happening. This may be running in the background for you. The first myth is that social media will directly create clients. It will not. I don't think it should. I think you're selling a significantly higher product than what social media was built for. The second myth is that social media will help me reach lots of people. Statistically, less than 10% of your followers will ever see your content, and this is dependent on their own active use. The algorithm turns over so quickly. Even if you had 1 million followers, a very small percentage of them are ever going to see your content. Another myth is that social media is a platform to sell coaching, no different than creating clients. This is a fun statistic. Only 17% of users purchase something through a social platform. And the #1 item sold is phone accessories, which I find very ironic, very meta, followed by makeup and sunglasses. So people are shopping on social media for things that are probably priced very, 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 very low and tangible, right? They're not signing up for your 6-month coaching package on social media. Not going to happen. Another myth is that social media means I don't have to cultivate a community elsewhere. I hope I have busted that myth up today. If nothing else, I hope I have highlighted, circled, underlined the importance of community building and specifically why reach and service are not the same and how community is activated through spaces where we can actually forge relationships. So what if social media were one additional way you get to serve? So if you don't want to throw it away, I don't fault you. It is a place where we get to be seen, at least by a handful of people. And what if it gets to be something that we can bring alongside our business? If you want to use it, maybe consider these very few ideas. The first idea is to make your account private. So by discerning who sees your content, you can curate your followers, ensure that your content is seen only by your intended audience, which can be useful for your service business. You might also encourage more meaningful interaction, and those who've chosen to connect with you and to your account may be more engaged and invested because it's not just a free-for-all. This is one way to do it. Number two, be an accessible resource. This is easy, I think, to do. I think replace any kind of pointing at or tipping or indicating that you want to sell coaching on social media, and maybe just serve as a resource for people. You can provide authentic guidance related to the topics and themes that you primarily work with, and you can create tiny essays, share tools, offer mini videos, and more to assist your followers in a genuine and helpful way. I have seen this mostly modeled, to be honest, I think maybe modeled in a way that I appreciate with a lot of therapists. I've seen a fair amount of therapist accounts use social media as a way to destigmatize mental health, which is such a cool way to use that tool. It has reach, it has cultural gain. It's helping us to get more support into the hands of more people. It doesn't mean that we're getting more people into the help they need. I wish that correlated, but it is taking down some of the barriers to entry. So what are some of the barriers to entry in coaching that your Instagram or whatever social media platform you use could help reduce? That's a resource. You could be a resource. 3, my favorite, be a spacer in someone scrolling, be a coach. Your social media account has the potential to be an invitation for your followers to slow down and pause, or literally take a deep breath. Instead of adding to the endless stream of info, your content can serve as a space for them to relax and recharge. What if your post literally said, stop and take a breath? Your content could just be that one thing in their feed that invites them back to mindful presence and awareness. That would be a resource as well. So again, these are just a few very small ideas. And as you can see, none of this is about marketing. None of this is about community. This is just about cultivating more service, using that platform to do that, but taking all the pressure off that platform to be a thing that creates or cultivates clients. All right, Jill, that's all the content I have for you. I'll open the floor here for questions in just a moment. Anyone who has anything they want to offer. I do just want to remind you that if you're not a current client or in the mentorship, then you're always welcome to enroll in a tiny course. If you don't have, the time, the energy, the investment to get working with me in a bigger way, tiny courses are a really great way to do that. So the one I would recommend that complements today the most is Marketing Reimagined for Heart-Centered Coaches. The tiny courses are 90 minutes, and it does include a pretty comprehensive workbook, as well as, you get lifetime access. So they're on the website. You go to bravercoach.com, I think /courses. You can find everything there if you're interested. And as always, reach out to me if you have any questions. All right, Cheryl, any questions from tonight's content? Anything that feels unanswered or unchecked that you want me to circle back to before we call it a day?
Okay, I'm trying. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hey, Shante.
Sorry about that. The thing that you said here at the end about being a spacer and someone scrolling, oh, magical. And I just thought about like 15 things I want to post.
Oh, I love that. Take it, run with it. I'll probably come across it
That
someday and
is
go,
so
oh, thank
good.
God.
I was
Good.
like, what does that mean, be a spacer? And then I was like, oh, that's good. That's real good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because I know that a big part of your work is self-care and bringing us back to our bodies and back to ourselves. So just demonstrate that, I think there's so much missed opportunity there for things that may be so obvious in hindsight, but not, always in the beginning. All right. Any other questions for tonight?
I had one about there was something that you said earlier on about this was for people who don't do one-to-many.
Yeah.
I was just so I guess I'm wondering about, are there any other, I don't know, maybe assumptions is not the right word, of yeah, maybe it is assumptions that are good to know in terms of how to think about this, like what kind of person this is for in terms of models.
Sure. So what kind of, let me just clarify, what kind of
Sorry.
business? No, no, no. I want to make sure I answer correctly, correctly. What kind of business owner would this guidance here be good for?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Sorry, that was a not particularly well-crafted question. Sorry.
No, we don't apologize. We don't ever say I'm sorry for asking a question. I love questions. And I think it's an important one because not all business advice is equal, as in it's going to fit everybody. And there are things in my work that are pretty specific to a particular type of business model. So I love that you're asking that. So as I said earlier, most of my business guidance comes under the guise of a couple clear assumptions. One, that you are a coach or in service where you're primarily selling one-to-one support, one to few. I would define few as less than 12, with supplementary things coming through, maybe courses or workshops, like I have the tiny courses. Of course, hundreds or thousands of people could sign up for those, but they are not, my income is not hinging on them. So if your income is primarily hinging on, like I said, that one-to-one relationship or the one to few relationship, then this is the business model that I'm speaking to. And typically these are the coaches who want to produce, I've seen the average is $50,000 to $100,000 a year in their business, with the scalable desire to move up into, 150 to 250 a year. So that's kind of the range that I primarily support. And this is the advice that I would give that business owner as well. Does that
Thank you.
help? Does
Yeah,
that
no,
question?
it does. It does. It absolutely does. Thank you. I think, yeah, I'll just leave it there. Thank you. That was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And also, my work is really for people who are just getting started or who have been in for a while, but they're spinning their wheels, or they've been absorbing a lot of business guidance that is not translating to their business, or it's asking them to show up in a way that doesn't suit them or doesn't work for their nervous system or doesn't work for the type of work they actually want to be known for. And my hope is to give heart-centered coaches foundational guidance, just the stuff that we can grow on for years. That's not going to go out of style next year. That's my
Yes.
hope. Anyway.
Thank you. I feel that, particularly the honesty that you bring to the process and what it's really like to grow a coaching practice. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very helpful.
Thanks, Arani. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's
Sure.
gritty, man.
Yeah.
Growing a business is gritty.
Yep.
I'm
it's the whole thing.
gonna celebrate 10 years this year,
Oh,
and
wow.
she's been a grind, and also incredibly fun. And I've loved every single coaching relationship I've gotten to be a part of is, gonna stay with me for life. So there's my brother and I, we're very, very close, and he teaches teachers and I teach coaches, and we have a lot in
Wow.
common. We talk about how in the beginning, we feel like we kind of burst people's bubbles in trying to ultimately help you understand that it's going to be uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
also the payout is going to be 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more incredible than you can even imagine. But there's going to be some grit in the beginning.
Mhm.
I don't know if I love the word grit anymore, but I think y'all know what I mean.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's real work involved. So
Yes, it's going to be work involved. Exactly.
very real work. Yeah.
Yeah, very
So-
real work. Yeah. We're going to put our energy into something. May as well put it into something that has a better chance of giving us a return.
Mhm. And that's in alignment with who we are and what we're doing. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
100%. Yeah. I think compartmentalizing ourselves, especially as women, I think we're done with that. I think we need to be done with that. I need to be done with that. I don't want to operate from two value systems. I just want to be myself. That's all I want to be.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank you.
y'all. Thank you so much for coming. You know, I was telling someone in the beginning, we had about 25 people register, and I think most of them are signed up for the replay, which is exciting because I didn't used to record these. And so I'm so glad that more people are going to get access to this. To those of you who attended live, thank you so much for your questions and being engaged and being here for the full thing. I really appreciate it so much. All right, the next community class is, I think, the last week of March. I don't have what it is yet, but registration for that will open up the second week of the month, and you'll get an access to this replay within the next few hours. All right, y'all take care. Have a good evening wherever you are. Be well. Bye.